Hey besties! I can't wait to tell you about my five-star reads this week. This is the best reading week I have had in a long time. Absolutely no DNFs. All of them were 5 stars. I loved them so much, I could not possibly pick a favorite. So I'm just going to go in order that I read them. I also read a memoir, but I'm not going to actually review the memoir. I'm just going to review the thrillers. By the way, say hi to Smokey. She's right back there. So, first up was My Sweet Girl by Amanda Jayatissa. Paloma was thrilled to be adopted by a wealthy American family and escape the Sri Lankan orphanage where she was living. 30 years later, she finds herself cut off from her parents' money and needing a roommate in order to be able to pay her rent. So she decides to rent to Aaron, a new immigrant from India. However, when he finds her dark secret and blackmails her, she flees the apartment to cool off. When she returns, she is horrified and shocked to find Aaron dead at her kitchen table. When the police arrive, however, the shocks just keep coming. Aaron has disappeared. How is this possible? Was she imagining things? She knows he was there dead at the kitchen table. There were fantastic twists and riveting suspense in this story, and the ending absolutely blew my mind. If you read this book, please tell me what you thought about the ending. Or if you have read this book, please tell me. I thought I knew how it ended, and then at the very last page, I was like, what? I can't say enough. This was fantastic. Okay, then next up, I read another book by this same author called You're Invited. I love the cover. I just love it. Amaya is shocked when she receives a wedding invitation from her former best friend, who is marrying Amaya's ex-boyfriend. She is determined to stop this wedding no matter what. When the bride-to-be, Kavi, goes missing and is presumed dead, Amaya is a suspect. But it turns out lots of the wedding guests had reason to want the bride dead. I loved all the interesting details about Sri Lankan wedding traditions and culture. It was just so fascinating. And the author is Sri Lankan. So, these are all genuine traditions and things. You just get such a very interesting look at Sri Lankan culture. I loved it. I also loved that we switched between points of view, and you see Amaya's point of view. She thought Kavi's life was perfect and beautiful, but then when we see Kavi's point of view, we see that her life was not what it seemed. The only thing I didn't care for in this book, but it was not enough to knock a star off, was the little bit of references to BDSM. I thought it didn't add to the plot in any way, and I felt like it was just unnecessary. I was like, why would you throw that in there? I'm not trying to read 50 Shades of Grey here. I'm trying to read a good mystery. Nothing against that if that's what you like to read, but it's just, this is supposed to be, a thriller. You don't need to add that for that. But anyway, I didn't knock a star off because that really was so small. It didn't ruin the book at all. I just felt like it was unnecessary. But at least it wasn't detailed. It was only mentioned in passing. It wasn't a lot. I did love how she wrapped up the story, even explaining what made the plot twists and things believable. Because that's one of my pet peeves sometimes when an author solves something and you're like, that's not believable, that would never happen, that's not realistic, how would that even be? So she tried to wrap it up in a way that she explained how things ended the way they did, and I like that. Then book number 3, my awesome librarian Catherine picked this book out for me, and I absolutely loved it. My Darling Boy by Helen Cooper. Chrissy and Alice were best friends, and so were their sons, until Leo punches Robbie in a fight, and the blow is fatal. A year later, Chrissy goes to pick Leo up when he is released on parole, but he has disappeared. The village doesn't want him to return, and Chrissy has been receiving threatening notes. This story was extremely suspenseful. I loved the unique plot, and the twists were absolutely fantastic. I read this in one day because I just couldn't put it down. And lastly, I would have read this in one day because I didn't want to put it down, even though it was almost 400 pages, but it was fantastic. Oh my goodness. I stayed up late last night reading this book. And then as soon as I got up this morning, I grabbed it and kept reading it until I finished it. Chloe Cates is Missing by Mandy McHugh. Chloe Cates is a reluctant YouTube child star as her mom Jennifer ruthlessly forces her to put her life on camera, even the horribly embarrassing moments. Then one morning, Jennifer wakes to find Chloe has disappeared and her bedroom window is wide open. The police investigator who shows up is Emelina, who was once a childhood friend of Jennifer's. I love how this story is told, again, from multiple points of view, including Chloe's diary entries. That is one of my favorite things when they include that in a plot. Diary entries from the missing person. You know, like that just adds such suspense to the story. It was fantastic. I can't say that enough. So fantastic. I was absolutely on the edge of my seat the whole way through. The closer it got to the end, the more intense it got, and I just couldn't put it down. It was so, so good. There were deadly, dark secrets revealed, and the ending was absolutely wild. I can't really say anything without giving any spoilers away. I feel like the ending was very unique in that some things were... how can I say this? Some things were implied, I guess. And I would love to see what you all thought after you read it. But yeah, I can't say anything without giving anything away. But that was this week's weekly reading wrap up. It was absolutely fantastic. I wish every week were like that. But that's not realistic. Most weeks I end up with a lot of DNFs. But see, this is why I DNF a book I'm not loving. There's too many books that I do absolutely love. Like, I'm just not going to waste time reading a book that I'm not just absolutely loving. And I've got a big stack to read still. So I will see you again on Monday for a mini book haul. I'm not going to pick up a lot of books from the library this time because I still have a lot from my 2 previous book hauls that I have not gotten through yet. So I'm just going to do a little mini book haul, and hopefully this will be another good week of reading ahead. I've still got lots of exciting things I can't wait to read. So I will see you all next time.